Welcome everyone to a new podcast. I have today a very special guest for you. His name is Richard Alexander. He's the co-founder of Vita Virtues, an Insur-Tech company based in Dubai. Richard, welcome.
Thank you, Simon. That may be the most enthusiastic introduction anyone's ever given me.
Well,
Appreciate
you deserve it. You deserve it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm very grateful to be here. And I've been keeping up with your podcasts and all the content you put out, and I follow you. It's great. It's very valuable, I think. So you're doing a great job.
Thank you so much, and I really appreciate your support and for you coming here. It took some rescheduling, but finally you are here with us.
Yeah, for the viewers out there, I think I had COVID when we first started trying to do this some months ago, but we got it. We're here.
Yeah, you're here, and now we can have a nice conversation together. So I just wanted to know first, like, what's your story? Tell me a little bit more about yourself. How did you ended up in Dubai? What is like the Richard story?
Oh, I mean, how far back do you want to go? I mean, it's
all the way till you were born.
All right,
no, joking.
Maybe not that far. That's a long time ago. Well, I guess really I started funnily enough, we're going into possibly going into a recession now. Mm-hmm. It seems that way. But this all started in the last recession, 2008, wasn't it? 2008, I think, the big recession. Yeah. So I was working in the UK. I'm English. And I was selling advertising space for a local newspaper. And obviously when the recession hit, the first thing to go for anybody was advertising, so I was out of a job. And I managed to convince my best buddy at the time to go traveling around Asia with me. It took some convincing, but I managed to do it. And we were supposed to go for 1 year just to travel around Southeast Asia.
Just 1 year.
Just 1 year. And it ended up being 5 years in Asia.
Oh my God!
And then 9 years here. So yeah, so we traveled around Southeast Asia, Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, all these beautiful places. Had an amazing adventure, and then when we got to the end of northern Vietnam, we said, okay, so it's time to go home now, right? And obviously the recession went on a bit longer than we thought, and we thought, well, there's no point going home because we're not going to get a job, and it's going to be the idea was to go back to London and get jobs in the city and become city boys.
Yeah.
But that wasn't going to happen. All of our friends are being made redundant still. So we ended up traveling into China and just carrying on, and very, very randomly ended up in Shanghai, which was not on our to-do list at all, and even more randomly ended up getting a job working as an insurance broker for a company called Pacific Prime, who are very prevalent in the insurance industry now in the brokerage world. And I spent 5 years in Shanghai, living and working there.
Wow.
Yeah, and then so after 5 years or so, they asked if I wanted to move to Dubai because they just set up an office here. So I moved here because I was definitely ready to leave China at that point. And that was 9 years ago.
So what did you tell them during the interview when you were, having a conversation with them? What made you convince them to take you on? Yeah.
Quite honestly, I think they were just looking for kind of Western expats. Mm-hmm. Their business model was to bring in, Western expats who are traveling. Shanghai is a very different kind of expat community situation to Dubai. It's a bit more transient. Mm-hmm. People generally stay for a year, 2 years, 3 years, maybe. That's kind of the longest term. So they were just like, okay, just come and join. Yeah, we've got some sales ability. You've done some sales before. Sure, come on in. So it didn't take much convincing, to be honest. But it was a very fortunate thing to happen, to be honest, because it's kind of brought me here in front of you right now. And it led me on my career path, and it led me to where I am today.
Yeah, I mean, it's good that sometimes you do things differently, I think, because like you could have stayed in the UK, and then already the first step would be to take that travel, right, for a year or just a year. And then you come at new places, you meet new people, and in one of those places you're like, you know what, maybe, it would be nice to have a job here and stay a little bit longer. And
Yeah,
like, what would have happened if you didn't do that?
it's a great question. I don't know. I don't know. And I do think about it sometimes. I mean, I come from I come from a village
Yeah.
in the west of England, in Somerset, which is very beautiful on those 3 days a year when it's sunny. The rest of the time it's just pretty miserable. But I guess, in a sense, most people that grow up in that environment, their destiny is set to kind of grow up there and live locally and work locally, and that's a beautiful life in its own way. But from an early age, I think I knew that there was something else. There was something bigger.
Yeah.
There was more to life than just growing up in this little village and drinking in the same pub every night and knowing the same people. So we did. Fortunately, we had the motivation when we were young to get out, and it was, greatest thing to happen to me.
So that drive, did you always feel you had that drive to explore?
Yeah, absolutely. Even now, even though I'm a lot more settled now and obviously a lot older, like I still fight with this thing within me all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, just go and buy a camper van or a sailing boat and sail around the world or drive around the world or Europe or America. I always have that. I'm always kind of fighting with that. But usually my senses get the better of me, and well, obviously so far my senses have got the better of me. So here I am. How did you get here? What was your story?
Well, actually, my story was that my current wife, she got a job in Dubai, and we always knew she would get a job outside of the Netherlands, because that's what she was looking for, and we discussed that as well. And it became Dubai, and I followed her, actually.
Oh, you followed her?
Yeah.
Okay.
I started with a university, University of Wollongong, and enrolled into an MBA program that allowed me to get a visa, at least some focus for some time. And and then I started to look for a job, and that was my way out of the Netherlands. But before that, I stayed 1 year in the Caribbean.
Wow.
For an internship.
Wow. Where in the Caribbean?
The Dutch Antilles,
Okay,
Bonaire.
yeah.
And at that time already, I was like, guys, I want to leave. I want to leave the Netherlands. I want to go somewhere. And in the end, I managed to combine it still with my education, because I needed to do a year internship. So I found a place there to do an internship.
Mm.
But when you say that drive, that push, I'm like, oh, I know how that feels, because it felt already so wrong to be there for a certain time, and you want to go out. So that's, I came back after the Caribbean, and I did work. I did try to settle in, but the drive was still there to go.
Yeah, and I was actually having a discussion with some friends last night, and I'm sure you have this discussion frequently with your expat friends. It's when you've lived this life that we've lived, this expat life, and you've lived in different places.
Yeah.
The difficulty is saying, the difficulty is where next, or is there another next? Like, do we stay here? Do we go somewhere else? Do we want to go back? And for a lot of expats, they meet people, they meet their partners and their wives, and they're from different places. Do we want to go back there? Do we want to go back here? Do we want to stay here? Like, it's always this question of, how long are you going to be here? Is this home now? Is it not home? Like, the concept of home is weird for me now, because I've lived outside of the UK for 20 years. So, yeah, who knows where.
Where do you feel home?
Here. I feel home here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're so lucky to live in Dubai. I mean, I think a lot of people maybe give Dubai a bit of a hard time in some ways. Maybe they feel like it doesn't have certain things that they would want from their, where they come from Europe or wherever. But there's so much opportunity here. And
Yeah.
it's such a great life. It's so
True.
we have such a great lifestyle, and I mean, people in Europe right now are worried about going into winter and a recession and heating their houses and like just surviving, and here we are,
The sun is shining.
The sun is shining all the time. We don't have to worry about heating anything. Coming into winter, which is the best time of year.
Yeah.
So we live a pretty good life, and I don't, when I hear people complain about it, I'm like,
Yeah.
come on, there's much worse situations you could be in right now.
True. But also because, the attitude is also here, let's not complain, and let's find solution, let's crack on, let's do something.
Yeah,
Let's move.
absolutely.
There's always movement.
Yep.
And so Richard, when you were growing up, or maybe now, do you have anybody that you were looking up to?
Yeah, of course, absolutely. Many people. I mean, I think my father, in a sense, he's got the thing I love about my father. He's got this great balance in life, right? He's the work thing for him was never. He always did something he didn't like. Actually, he was a salesman, like myself.
Yeah.
And he worked for a big corporate. And I remember when I was a kid, he would always say, I would always ask him how his job's going. He's like, I hate it. It's terrible. It's awful. But he always had a really good, close bunch of friends, and they always were doing things. And he had such a great life outside of that. And actually, my father was kind of my inspiration to get out of the corporate world, because I followed his steps because I worked for a big corporate insurance company for many years, Bupa Global, which was amazing experience. But I found myself, in the last kind of 3 or 4 years, thinking, I'm turning into my dad here. Like I've got the balance
Scary,
right. I've got the great friends and the good, interesting life outside of that. But I wasn't feeling too fulfilled in my kind of work life, and I could see I was going the same way as him. And I didn't want to do what he did, which is complain about working for the same company for his entire life until he retired, and then being like, oh great, now I've retired, everything's good. So he's kind of what, in a way, inspired me to recently leave the corporate world, leave that safety net and the ease of working for a big corporate, and go into the kind of entrepreneurial life, I guess, in a sense.
And did you talk with him about it, about your feelings that you had, the conflict of feeling that you are maybe trapped?
Yeah, I mean, we've always had an open dialogue about that, I guess. Even when I was young, I think when you're young, you see things in much simpler terms. And I would just say, why, if you don't like it, why are you doing it? But obviously it's more complex when you're a bit older and you need to pay bills, and maybe there's not so much opportunity, especially back in the UK. But yeah, like I said, seeing that has given me that insight to know that I don't want to go that way. Do you know what I mean? I want to try something by myself.
And when you were in that situation, did you talk about it with other people?
Yeah.
For example, with your father? Or?
Not so much.
Yeah.
Not so much. I've talked about it with friends around me, absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was a great example of what not to do, in a sense, but also what to do, because he, like I said, he's got this great existence, this great life. He's very fulfilled, but he never was kind of professionally fulfilled. So I saw that early on, and I thought to myself, I don't want to become that. I don't want to get into that trap.
So you made that jump, which it's very brave, but at the same time can also be scary.
Very.
You have things set up, you have your job, you have your income, you have your network, you're established there.
Yep.
And
it was scary. So it was a year ago this month that I left Bupa Global.
Yeah.
And Bupa was amazing. It was a 7-year ride with Bupa Global. So it was great to work for such a giant corporate entity and have all those experiences and all the learning points, and obviously the comfort of the financial side of it was very comfortable. You get your nice paycheck every month. You didn't have to worry about anything. But I always knew, and again from my father's experience, that there's, I want to do something else. I want to make a difference elsewhere with being a bit more innovative and free thinking, and not having to fall within that kind of corporate structure. I wanted to go out and make, and really kind of try and have an impact elsewhere.
Yeah. So I understand that, and now you have been a year in the journey.
Yeah.
How is it?
It's been a fun ride. It's been fun, which is, I think, the most important thing. It's been an education, a real education. I wouldn't class myself as an entrepreneurial spirit by any means, and so it's forced me to explore that side of myself a little bit more, and it's been great to be able to help make a difference to some people, to quite a few people now. We've had a reasonable level of success, so we've been able to help a lot of our customers to really have a significant impact in their lives day to day. So it's great. It's really cool.
Okay, so we will talk a little bit more about what you do, and because I know that, but people watching don't know that.
Yeah.
And it will be useful for them to know. I just wanted to know as well, like from a personal level, how do you wake up now compared to 1.5 years ago?
Probably with a little bit more enthusiasm. Definitely a little bit more fear, because it's all on me now, really. Not me, but me and my other partners in this business as well. But I think you're motivated, a lot more motivated, for sure. I think, and I was speaking to some friends about this recently as well. Like, these people that work in the same company for 10, 20 years, I mean, I've got a lot of respect for them. If they can keep that level of motivation up for that long in one company, that's impressive. But for me, 4 or 5 years in one company, I think that's the point where I start going, all right, I need something else now, and my motivation slips a little bit. So, I've got a good 4 years left, hopefully, in me to make this thing work. So yeah, and a little bit of fear, because it's really dependent on, our success is dependent on being able to keep the lights on, pay the bills.
Yeah, absolutely. And what do you do? Because I know that, and but the people watching most likely will not know it.
So our company, Vita Virtues, I'm a partner in that company. We create solutions for the insurance industry, ultimately, specifically medical insurance. So that's, like I said, that's my background. So I come from a broking background, and then I work for Bupa Global, and my business partner as well, Miro, who you know very well, also has a similar background to me in insurance. We actually met in China 15 odd years ago.
No way.
Yeah. So that's how we know each other. We've become kind of closest friends, and now business partners, which is beautiful, but also has its challenges, of course. And actually, it was his insight. He realized a number of years ago that there's a significant challenge with the distribution process for medical insurance, right? Mm-hmm. So At the moment, if you come to me, and let's say I'm a broker, and you come to me as Simon Snelder and you say, I want to get individual medical insurance for me and my wife, most brokers, in which there's hundreds in the UAE, they will then have to go off to all the different insurance companies, and the insurance companies offer them rate sheets and tools and things, and they have to go and get all those rates and then amalgamate them, put them into a comparison, and then send it to you, right? So that is the first bottleneck in the whole distribution process. So Vita Virtues, our wider mission, our bigger mission, is to reduce the whole distribution process down to a few hours, hopefully, or a day maybe. But the initial problem that we saw is for brokers, which is getting that quotation out to their customers. The going to the different insurers and getting the premiums and putting them together in a comparison and sending them, that takes most brokers 2 to 3 days to do. And it's extremely time consuming, which obviously is a big expense to them. And when other brokers out there have a piece of technology like kind of roughly like what we offer, they can do it in seconds. Those other brokers aren't going to have a chance of winning the business because there's already another broker that's halfway through the sales conversation. So we designed a retail product using our experience, and that's our first product, which is called Sales Lab, that we now have about 40 odd brokers in Dubai using already since we launched it officially in February. And it's changing lives. And I don't just say that lightly, like it is actually changing lives. I actually went into one of our current customers' offices not long ago.
Yeah.
And one of the girls who was a sales admin, her role was literally just to constantly put these quotes together. She came in and she was in tears. And she came in and spoke to me. And I was like, what's going on? Is there a problem? Like, oh no, have we got a bug in the system or something? She's like, no, these are happy tears. I'm like, why? She said, well, I used to go home at 7 o'clock every night because it used to take me forever to put these quotes together. And now I go home at 5 o'clock with everybody else. And I was like, wow, okay, that's amazing.
Oh.
So yeah, it's changed. Yeah. It is literally changing lives. So it's nice to know we're having that impact.
That's beautiful, and to get such a great feedback from your customers in person.
Yeah.
Then you're like, yes,
Yeah.
we contributed to that.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely a good feeling.
And what challenges did you face to get the product out there?
I mean, I came on relatively late in the process of actually developing the platform. It's been being built essentially for a number of years. Mm-hmm. So I only came on a year ago, so when it was all ready, right? Yeah. But there's been a lot of challenges. The biggest challenge we have, the insurance industry is especially medical, is renowned for being way in the past in terms of adopting technology. Way in the past.
It's not just the medical, trust me.
I'm sure. I'm sure, but from my experience, it's a case of if it's not broke, then why do we need to do anything?
I hate that.
Things are working. We're selling. Nothing's broken here, and nothing's broken until they realize that there's a much more efficient way to do business. There's a much more efficient way to distribute insurance to customers. So it's been the challenge for me as a salesperson has been to kind of overturn this kind of slightly prehistoric notion of what medical insurance is and how it should be and how it should be distributed. And going in and being like, hey, there's a blind spot. You've got a blind spot. You don't realize you could be saving hundreds of thousands in a process that you're doing, and you could be winning a lot more business, but you need to adopt this, and you need to change your mindset here, and kind of give this a go, because it is making a significant impact.
Yeah, and how do you get them to believe that, or do they take a leap of faith, or do they try it out first, or?
So yeah, we, I guess in a sense, some of them take a leap of faith. What I've noticed is that how do I put this diplomatically? The more prevalent brokers out there adopted it very fast. They saw it straight away, and they got it, and they took it on. It's the ones that, let's say the smaller brokers, which are probably the ones that need it most, so they can compete with these other bigger fish out there. It's those guys that take a bit of convincing, because there's like a bit of an old school mentality. There's a lot of dinosaurs out there in this industry, to be honest. So we offer it basically free of charge for a couple of months to them. And that's it. As soon as they see, oh, okay, this is actually really working for us, and this is reducing this whole process by 99% in a lot of cases, and saving us significant amounts, and also winning us so much more business. I mean, the proof is in the pudding, right? As soon as they see that, they go for it. So it kind of speaks for itself, really.
That's good that you let them try it out and see for themselves. Seeing is believing.
Yep.
And then, yeah, if you don't want to extend, then, there's been no cost.
Exactly.
Except for you, of course, because you put time in letting them try it out and reaching out to them. But I don't think people will want to go back to the old ways and waste time.
No.
And have less options, less overviews. If they can do it so quickly and, with technology.
Like I said, it's one of those things where it's a blind spot to a lot of, and this doesn't just apply to brokers or medical insurance specifically. I think it's technology has come in now, and it's automating processes where a lot of companies don't think you can automate a process because they've been doing it that way for so long, and they haven't even considered, like, I can only speak from my experience. A lot of these brokers, they haven't even considered that there's a different way to do it.
Yeah.
And so it's not something that is front and center for them. It's something that's not important to them until I go in and show them that it should be something important for you, because you're not being very efficient here, So it's all about efficiency, and that's what technology should be, at its best. Making things more efficient, working in synchronicity with human beings. That should be the future of AI and technology, I believe.
And this past year, when you made this transition from corporate into being an entrepreneur, what have been some of your highlights or most beautiful moments?
I've already touched on one of them, which was that comment from this girl, which was amazing. I think just the freedom,
It's great, huh?
Just the freedom to be like, hey, I think this is the direction we should go in next, or we should develop this, or we should consider, just moving in a certain direction. Whereas when you work for a giant corporate entity, you don't have any of that. You're just in your box. You don't think outside of that box. You've got all of the systems and processes and service capabilities and teams around you to support you, and that's beautiful. That's great, and it's there's some elements of that I definitely miss, but to have that freedom to now be like, okay, we're going to direct the company in this way, we're going to go this way, that has been a massive highlight for this year.
Now you had the taste of freedom.
Yeah.
Do you think you can go back?
Never say never, but no, never.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's possible, but maybe in a different context. Yeah, I never say never, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Could you?
I know. I mean, I've worked only in a family company,
Mm-hmm.
which was my family company. I thought I would stay there for my whole life, but that was in the Netherlands. My siblings are still in it.
What's your family business?
It's in the different sectors, in the daycare sector, nurseries. So it's
So you really broke the Snelder mold, huh? By
Yes.
getting out and
yeah.
doing things completely differently.
Yeah, so my father founded it. My mother was in the company. All my siblings were in the company. Even other people in the family. Plus, even a lot of our friends were hired by my father because he just wanted to hire everybody that he saw that was literally close to us.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was not to say that I was not like successful in it. I was doing maybe 3 or 4 different roles at the same time. I had my education in it. I was established. And I was building up my network. Even within we made a group of other, co-owners that had other businesses. We came together every month to discuss things. So it was not bad. It's just that I thought it was not my thing.
Mm.
It was most of the time boring,
Yeah.
to say it mild. I did not feel challenged. It was, I just remember most of the time not feeling the need to start the day or end the day. Did not really care about too much about what I accomplished.
Mm.
Later, I learned to motivate myself more,
Yeah.
and that helped. But I just felt like I cannot stay here for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Even if I am taking over the company, I give myself whatever salary I want. I take whatever profit I want out of the company. Even the money incentive would not make a difference for me.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I'm so glad that I left that and I could not have my family as my colleagues, and at the same time I'm now in a situation where I have the freedom to do a lot of different things
Yeah.
and motivate myself to be in the industry that I love.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
Do you think if was it your wife at the time, or she was your wife at the time when you
No,
left?
she was my girlfriend at that time.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if your girlfriend didn't want to come and move and live abroad,
Yeah.
do you think you would have done it?
I think it would have been harder, but the need was still there. I mean, I was always they were always having that direction, and I was always saying, no, I want to be this. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that would have worked out. My father, funny enough, before he founded the company in the Netherlands, lived 10 years in South America, left the Netherlands when he was younger,
Yeah.
26 or 20, or around 26, 27, around the same age that I left. And so he's the only one that understands what I'm going through, because he did the same thing.
Okay. Yeah. Of course.
Though, but of course he hopes me to come back one day. But that's a different story.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I get that pressure too. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Less so now. I think my parents have kind of given up on that idea.
Yeah.
But probably 10 years ago, when I've kind of a few years after I left, they're like, "Oh, you're going to be coming back, right? This is home." I'm
Yeah,
like,
I
maybe.
just yeah, it's I think it could have been that something else would have taken me out to complete the your answer, but you don't know, you don't know, like if you went on a backpacking tour or on a travel tour with your friend, and
Yeah.
you didn't know what it led to, but the start was there.
Yeah.
So, but the drive. So I believe also in a little bit sometimes, you don't know what the end station is, but you do know that something doesn't work here.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the motivation, right? And what is it? A 1,000-mile journey begins with one step, whatever the quote is, something like that. And it just takes that one step.
Yeah.
To, I mean, if I talk about my friend, he's had a similar journey to me. Literally a journey.
And where's your friend now?
He's now in Hong Kong. He was working in again for this same company as me,
Pacific
Prime.
Yeah.
He was very prevalent in that company and still works there, in fact.
Okay.
And then he opened up he met his wife in Asia, in China, and then they lived in Hong Kong. He came and lived here for a while, and so his story has been, well, we have similar stories, and the fact that we both come from the same little village, and we left, and our parents thought it was going to be for a year because you just go in traveling, and then 15 years later, he's in Hong Kong doing this thing with his family, and I'm here. So you just don't know where life's going to take you, do you? And that's the exciting thing, and that's the great thing about being, the life that we have, which is being expatriates. You just don't know who you're going to meet, where you're going to go, what job is going to take you where, what opportunity is going to come up. It's it's all about who you meet. It's all about relationships.
Absolutely. And do you think what is next, or what will be your ultimate goal to achieve, or a dream, or do you have something like that, or are you fluid?
I've never been one for setting big goals, and that's because I have lived quite fluidly. I've always kind of just, I've never really orchestrated my life like, okay, at this time I got to be here, and I got to have this thing, and I've got to have the house and the picket fence and the wife at this point. All that's, I've never lived that way. I've been a bit more kind of free flowing, I guess. But if I do try and set small little incremental goals, and I think for the next couple of years, it's really to build this business up that we've created and help a lot of people, and have success. And if we're helping people help themselves, then we're successful. And that's kind of my motivation with this company is if we're truly making a difference in people's lives and helping them have a better life, then we'll be successful, and that's the goal. Whether that has a monetary value that I put next to it, or a certain number of customers, or a certain number of regions we're in the world, I'm not sure yet, but it will come.
Yeah, and just to talk a little bit about the industry, one of my guests, he's the CFO of RSA, and RSA, one of the things that during the podcast we discussed was that probably we can expect in the industry mergers and acquisitions. And this was quite some time back that we discussed this, and then they got bought or they merged.
RSA,
yeah. And I'm seeing all around me things happening. Yesterday I was talking with a client of mine, explaining her that that her original company or policy that she took way before she met me, that company got now acquired by that it's now called Sukun Insurance. She's like, who's Sukun?
I know
Insurance?
Sukun very well. I used to be an employee for what was Sukun. Yeah. Great company. Because they're partners with Bupa Global in the Middle East. So I used to work officially for Oman Insurance, which is now Sukun.
And I'm seeing left and right. So what's going on? Do you know what's going on, or?
It's always evolving. It's always changing, right? And as with everything in life, nothing stays still for very long. There's always change, and you have to be prepared for it. And especially now we're in, I feel like the realm we're in now is, AI is really starting to come into play in all aspects of life, and that's we have to embrace it, I think.
Yeah. And do you feel like there are too many players as well in the field, because this is a little bit of the observation that I always have in this area. I've had some discussions also in the past about other sectors. There was this gentleman in 2015 that I met, and he said, when I look at Dubai, when I look at the banks, I see Greece, because he was from Greece. He said back in the days we had like more than 60 or 50, more than 50 banks, and now we have three, and one of them, and two of them are going to talking about merging. So we only have two banks left.
Yep.
And when I look at Dubai, all these banks, and actually that happened since 2015 to 2022 now. We've seen a lot of like mergers and acquisitions and less players in the market, people leaving the market.
Yeah.
So yeah, do you think that trend is also accelerating?
It's specifically in medical, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the UAE is oversaturated with insurance products.
Yeah.
I think there's around 38, 40 registered insurance companies in the UAE, which is a lot. That's a lot. And we've just seen a pretty significant merger, actually. So Aetna, I don't know if you know.
Yeah, I know Aetna.
So they have just kind of merged with Allianz, so they're no more. Everything's folded into Allianz now, which is, so that's a giant merger that happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
That's a big one.
Aetna got bought by Allianz.
Yeah, they got acquired, yes. Yeah, I don't know the details of exactly how it went down, but
The whole business or just part of the business?
I believe, yeah, the whole business, yeah.
That's a major acquisition.
It's pretty big. And these happen all the time in the medical
Yeah,
world.
I know.
All the time.
Yeah, I mean, I cannot say this because what was shared with me was very confidential, but I know that Allianz has been looking around to buy some other big players for a while.
Yeah.
And yeah, these things did not work out. That's why I don't want to mention it. But yeah, I mean, some players always want to become bigger.
Of course.
And the giants eat the other giants, and then they become bigger giants.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a dog eat dog world, right?
Yeah.
It's the nature of this industry. It's the nature of big corporates and the world we live in, I guess.
Yeah, and then you help the brokers to navigate through all of that.
Do we, as a company?
Yes.
In a sense, yeah. In a sense, we do. Really, it's it's all on them to understand them. And the best brokers out there have their finger on the pulse, and they know what's coming and what's going on in the insurance world. And this is what really makes the difference between an average broker and a good one. Is the good ones they know what they're talking about. They are constantly educating themselves on products, on market, on mergers and things like this going on. And the good ones can see it coming as well. I mean, I can say that for Pacific Prime for sure. They could see a product that was too good maybe, and that wouldn't be sustainable, and they would call it out, and they would even tell the insurance company. And sometimes the insurance companies listened, sometimes they didn't, and quite often they were correct.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And in business, what are like 4 things that are important for you, or 5 things? Do you have a couple of things that you say, these are my pillars?
Yeah. I mean, I think certainly from the Insur-Tech perspective, I think that the really important thing to consider is don't just come in with one solution that fixes one problem, right? You have to have a much broader, bigger mission. Because if you come in and fix one process issue with your piece of technology, someone's going to come in and replicate it and do it cheaper, do it better, do it faster, do it more efficiently, right? So you need, like we do, you need to have a much bigger idea, and to constantly be evolving it and kind of and listening to your customers and getting their feedback, the user experience, and actually adjusting to it. So that's one. I think with any business, going in with the mindset of, all right, yes, we're here to make money, which is, but money really is the sideshow, is the side effect to going in and really trying to make a difference. If you go in with the mindset of, I want to help people, I want to really truly make a difference in people's lives and make their lives easier in some way, in some respect, whether that's your customers or the end consumer, then I think that's kind of half the battle, right? I think, and I'm sure you do that in your practice as well.
Yeah, I try to add value.
Yeah.
I mean, if I don't add value, then I feel like, why am I there?
Yeah. And I think the simple one that people forget is have fun doing it. You've got to be having fun, right? If you're not if you're not having fun in what you do, then I mean that comes through in so many different ways. But you got to be enjoying it. This is, you know, we only get one shot at life as far as we know, so you got to enjoy what you're doing for 70% of your time.
And I think people see that when you're having fun, when you're, you know, in it. You know, that's contagious.
Yeah.
People feel the energy,
Absolutely.
positive vibes.
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah, that's great. And I, you know, for me personally, what I look at is, you know, adding value.
Yeah.
A lot. Like I fully agree with the things you say.
And you're having fun.
And having absolutely
That's
so
awesome.
much that sometimes people are like, are you working or are you just like enjoying life? I said, no, I am just, can I just sing when I'm working?
Those two things don't have to be separate to each other. They can be the same.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I cannot wait to wake up, and I'm like, yeah, I want to do this and that and that, and it doesn't. Of course, you have your you know your down cycles, but doing all of this and making my content helps me to lift me up when the business is sometimes a little bit challenging.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that's good, and I just, you know, I know you from you know, Richard, from like the past year, so I always thought you were like the person that was a little bit free spirited, you know, likes to have fun, and
Absolutely.
yeah,
100%.
and is also likable, which is important, right?
I guess so. Some people like me. I'm sure some don't, but that's okay. But yeah, I think I think there's a you know, that's like you say, adding value. That's the key. Like if you're adding value, having fun doing it, and you feel like you're really, you know, helping, making a difference to people, which I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do. And your advice is great. Like I said, I watch your videos.
Thank you.
I made a giant error a couple of years ago. I was going to buy some property. I decided not to buy some property, and I decided to put all of that cash into stocks and shares, and I've just watched it like just plummet over the last few months. What's your advice to me, Simon? What should I do with my cash?
Yeah.
Keep it there?
Well, it's not a good time now to exit.
No.
Ideally, you exit. Like the ideal scenario is you exit when it's high and you enter when it's low. But how do we know when what is what? Nobody knows.
No.
If you knew with certainty it would have gone down this year, you would not stay in the market, and vice versa.
So my financial advisor, maybe I should switch to you, sorry.
Yeah, we can have that conversation.
Okay, all right,
record.
deal. And you're going to try and sell me some property in Greece as well, like you said off camera. But no, my FA guy, he sent something to me a couple of months ago, and it was like, it was a long-term view of the stock market over like a century, and it kind of like had these peaks, and then it dropped, and then it went up again, it dropped, but it always went much further up. So this is my one hope, you know, in a year or so it's gonna going to jump right up again. But
Yeah,
I don't claim to be an expert on these things, so we'll
yeah,
see.
it is something when you look at these long-term graphs. But right now, what I do see is a change, and that's not just only with investments, also maybe in your industry and another industry, is that the timeline that people want to wait is less.
Of course,
Yeah,
the whole world.
yeah,
This is the pandemic. Forget COVID. The pandemic of the world right now is lack of everyone wants things instantly, and I'm the same.
yeah,
I'm guilty of this. Like if I go on Amazon and order something, if it's going to arrive in 4 days, I'll be like, okay. But if it gives me the option to get it in 2 days and pay another 20 dirhams, I'll do it.
yeah,
And if it doesn't turn, if something doesn't turn up, I'll start getting like antsy.
yeah,
And I'm like, 10 years ago, getting this, I never would have got this thing in the first place because I wouldn't be able to order this thing. So like, and I had to go out and find it or buy it from somewhere. It would probably take weeks to arrive. And I think that's just the culture we live in now. Like everybody expects things to be instantaneous, right? You want things now.
Yeah.
And no one's got any patience anymore.
yeah, exactly. And then when you say wait for 20 or 30 years for something to happen, that's like maybe you could have said that like 20 or 30 years ago, but right now that's almost impossible. And you know, I think this fastness is, it's on one side it's good, but also sometimes it's also nice to take a breather and to to digest.
Yeah. Let
Mm.
things happen.
Let things happen.
Let things percolate in the background because it's those things that take time are always the best things, right? Usually.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a final question for you, and that is like for our viewers here. What like other advice or wisdom or experience or something else would you like to share with them?
Okay, well, I can only give advice to myself. I can't give advice to anybody else. So I'll share with everybody the advice that I constantly have to remind myself about, which is discipline. Being disciplined. And I fell off the discipline train sometimes, and then I catch myself and I get back on it. And when I say discipline, like for me, that looks like getting up very early. I try to get up 5:30 and I get my exercise in. I have a meditation practice that I try and do. Just eating well, keeping healthy, just having these kind of these kind of practices, these disciplined rituals in my life. They allow, I think having that allows you to then be more creative, right? It gives you more freedom to then be like, okay, I want to do this, I want to try this, I want to try this thing. I think, just discipline. Discipline is destiny.
Yeah.
Which is a great book I'm reading, by the way. If anybody wants a good book to read, a guy called Ryan Holiday, Discipline is Destiny. It's an excellent, excellent book. And it's so true. I think if you are disciplined, then if you're patient, those things will come to you. The things that you're looking for in life will come.
I like that. And I would like to end with that because I have nothing more to add to these nice words that you shared with us. And for the people that have been watching, this was Richard Alexander, co-founder of Vita Virtues. My name is Simon Snelder, and thank you so much for watching. And Richard, thank you even more for coming.
Thank you.
It was my pleasure speaking with you.
It was mine.
And goodbye, everybody.